Let's just double check that we are live. And we should be live. There you go. All right, guys. So obviously you can see this on the screen. It's a Google Voice phone number, so y'all can actually call in and talk to the guys. So what's up, guys? Welcome.
What's up, Joe? Nothing, man.
Nobody's seen you in person.
All right, here you go.
Feast your eyes.
Robert said not much to see, but there's some stuff to see.
There. So we wanted to do this live Q&A because this is generating a ton of views, a ton of comments, and you were talking about that earlier. You were looking through the comments.
Yeah, I just got from Vegas yesterday. We drove, and it's a lonely road, so I listened to the podcasts back to back, and I recommend doing that because it just flows so good together the way you're doing it. Yeah. It's awesome. But then I didn't know you could comment on YouTube videos, so I started reading the comments because you have these little like headlines on the picture. So I was like, where's you getting these from? But the comments are amazing because when Robert was telling me about this, I agree. I was kind of feeling, okay, we are picking up a little scab a little bit, just a tiny bit. But at the same time, we're only doing our scabs.
Right.
You know, if the story is out there, you can Google it and read it and you can know what's going on. So we are picking in our scabs, which is healthy for us. But the comments, it's amazing to get that feedback. The people are saying about it, and I don't even think I saw one negative one at all.
None.
No.
Which is interesting because we were talking about this, like when are we going to get our backlash, and we did get it. And out of full respect, I'm not going to tell the whole story, right? No. But obviously, we were not going to mention one person throughout the whole thing because we want to respect everything, and obviously we're not trying to bring up old stuff, but this
not
is
trying to agitate anybody.
Yeah, this is a story that's going to do that regardless.
Right.
It's just insane because this is like what we're hearing is this is the talk of the town at Port Isabel and South Padre Island. People are talking about it because it's interesting. Mm-hmm. It's them. It happened to their place.
Well, they look at that bridge every day.
That's the part. I mean, I was in Vegas, and you see the casinos, you can think of every movie it's been in. But I'm gone. I leave and that's it. I never think about it. But the people that live in the Rio Grande Valley, that cross that bridge, how do you not think about?
How do you not think?
I mean, even that portion, you could tell the color difference between the rest of the bridge.
Yeah, the new portion.
Yeah, the new portion that they put, the color's totally different from the rest of the bridge. So it's the first thing that pops in your head.
Yeah.
Whether you're a part of it or not.
Going over it, you think, man, this is the part that fell. This is the
And you were there just last night.
Just last night. I went over there to have dinner and spend some time with my brother-in-law and his family. And we got to drive over that bridge again, and it's still, the question still comes to mind, and especially now since it's so fresh. Mm-hmm. We've been podcasting about it, we've been talking to different people about it. So I found myself driving over there and pointing out to my daughter, Sochi, oh look, this is where, Pastor Hyde came and found us right here on this side. And oh look over there, that's where our boat was. And this, and so it's still very, very present, it's a memory, it's an experience. It's surreal.
So if you've been following us and you've been watching everything and you have comments or you want to call in, we have an 956-320-0261 number that you can call. It's Google Voice. We'll take your call. Don't prank phone calls.
I'll take those calls. I'll take those calls.
It might get fun.
All right, we'll get real funny here real quick. What's it called when they roast you or what
Well, you were talking about that the lights were off yesterday.
Yeah, from the Sapphire where we were staying, they have balconies that face Port Isabel, and the first portion of the bridge leaving South Padre Island, all of the lights were on, for maybe about 16, 20 lights deep. But then all of a sudden it just cuts out, and then it was eerie because you could still see the cars kind of going over, and all you saw were the tail lights, fading into the mist. So yeah, who knows, man? Maybe the lights still suffer from laws of electricity here and there.
Do you still cross the bridge?
I haven't been to the island in a while. I live in San Antonio now, so my beach is Corpus. Actually going to Padre Island in 2 weeks. Actually, might be my first trip in a while, but it's probably been about 2 years since I've been there. And I was thinking about this the other day. somehow we blocked out what had happened, because I remember fishing down there again recently. Well, not recently, but within the last 20 years. And we were just jumping off of the pillars for fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were there with his brother, and I don't think we even mentioned what had happened,
Yeah.
what occurred, or anyway. And we were at the spot that this happened, and I want to say that I don't think not one of us ever
You
mentioned
never
it.
brought it up.
Yeah,
It's
never brought
common
it up.
knowledge amongst us.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like, you know, it's
Yeah.
and it's great because it's a bond that we have. I haven't spoken to Tony in quite a while, you know, and lost contact with my brother as well. But it's still a bond that we have. I'll always respect them for being a part of that, you know, band of brothers or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing. I know we did good then, but when you kind of hear the feedback from strangers, because we never got any of that.
Never.
Yeah, we never got any of that. But then again, there was no Facebook, there was no podcast, there was none of this fancy stuff. You know, it's whatever you could read in an article. But it's a great feeling, you know, and to share that with the kids, man, that's awesome. That's an awesome.
Yeah.
So you have good energy about what we're doing here.
Absolutely, I think it's. Robert mentioned. I mentioned it's extremely therapeutic. It really is, and it's you know. I get to hang my cape up now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's like, man, you did something 20 years ago. I was talking about you guys older. I feel the age. I feel the age coming on me. And I'm 43 years old. I feel it, you know.
Yeah.
But I did something when I was young that was pretty cool. And now I'm getting to, you know, feed that with my boys, with my daughter. And it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling. And it's even better because I've seen the comments from people that were affected by this directly, people who lost loved ones. And getting that positivity on something
Back
so
from them,
negative,
yeah.
it's just amazing. It's
Very
amazing
rewarding.
feeling. I called them up. I was excited. I said, hey, you know, did you read that comment? Because that's the one we're waiting for. You know, you know, what are they going to think? Because like I mentioned earlier, it's our scabs we're picking. We don't want to pick at anyone else's.
Right.
They just happen to be
The
a part
truth
of
of
it.
the matter is that we don't really know. You know, I don't know what those families suffered after that.
Yeah, we don't. Absolutely not.
It was never really discussed. So, again, you know, to hear Gaspar's story and the suffering that took place, and you know how he was brought out of the vehicle and stuff. That's to me, it's information that was denied me from me for 20 years. So to hear it, it's awesome.
And I think you said it best, that this is the most detailed account of what happened on the water.
Definitely.
It's crazy, man. Like I never thought that. Well, let me tell you this, because how do you feel when people say they didn't even hear about you guys?
I've heard that quite a bit from people that have known me for years, and then you know this podcast is like, hey, I didn't even know you were even a part of that.
Same here, man. I have members of the club here that they're like, really, that was you? I'm like, yeah. So it's I think that the magnitude of the accident overpowers what followed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bridge collapsed, several people passed away, and there were 3 survivors, and I think those are the broad strokes of the story. And since there's very little detailed offered to anybody who's hearing the story from somebody who's given it to them secondarily, that's really all they can give them, you know. And I think that's why the story and our story and the things that happened that night kind of fell through the cracks.
What's interesting about that is this story goes deep. Like, it's not even, you guys are like a tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
It's crazy, man. Like, it's involving the state of Texas. It's involving Cameron County.
Yep.
And all of that somehow just got buried.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
Thrown under the rug. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's been hidden.
Yeah.
It really has been hidden, because I'm sure you're having trouble finding stuff that we know that's out there.
Yeah, had it not been for Celeste and her efforts, I think we'd still be kind of shuffling in the dark when it comes to, you know, what we were lacking.
Yeah, huge shout out to Celeste. She helps us. She's like a ninja, dude. She can look through all the documents and say, hey, you should look at this. So it's pretty cool. Like, regular people that are commented on this stuff are helping us. And that's what we're trying to do, is like, if you know anything, share it with us, because we want to get the truth out. We want to get the right information from the right people. Next week, we got a couple of captains that are coming on that were on the boat that night. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires from this. And I'm pretty excited. But we got our first question, Art.
Oh, cool.
So it's saying, who were the people who took their lives as a result? Was it the lawyers? I know there's a bunch of hearsay of who it was,
Mhm.
but do you all know anything about it?
I know for sure that our attorney, Frank Enriquez, took his life, but I don't believe it had anything to do with this particular story. I think that was something that he was dealing with.
Completely different.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was probably about 2 years ago or so that he took his own life in San Antonio.
In San Antonio.
He jumped off a building.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other attorney was Ray Marchand, which I had mentioned earlier. He was the lead attorney.
Yeah, he was the lead
They all
attorney.
got together, and I think he was a maritime lawyer. That was like
Okay.
his background, his specialty.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah, that's why they kind of like went with him.
Let him take the reins.
Yeah, and so he jumped off the highest point of the bridge.
So I guess that would be two.
Yeah, there's
To
two attorneys.
answer the
I mean,
question.
not to pick at another scab or anything, but I think several months later, his daughter ended up taking her own life.
Wow.
Yeah, and their Rancho Viejo home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we had also heard that the captain of the barge took his life,
Yeah.
but we can't find anything. Like, I tried looking and.
It's definitely not, it definitely happened after the case was settled, because there's nothing referencing his suicide in the court documents. But, from what I understand, it was,
From what we were told, we were told, yeah.
He had taken his own life as well.
Wow. Yeah, this story just has so much depth.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because so many people were affected. I think I went to maybe like
Get a little bit closer to
Sure,
mine.
sorry.
I think I went to like the 12th or the 13th anniversary with a friend of mine who invited me out there because he owned property on Padre Island and was from there. And he's like, hey, you know, they gave me tickets because it was like kind of this little exclusive thing. And I went out there and no mention of us, which I mean, I didn't expect. I went incognito. I didn't want to even speak.
Yeah, it wasn't about.
No mention of the survivors. They did mention the people who lost their life, but there was this whole backstory of how the community had to pull together because their lifeline was cut off. They weren't getting groceries over there.
Mhm.
They had no water for quite some time.
I remember, what's Mayor Siginowitz, or I forget.
Siganowitz.
I can't pronounce it.
I think it was
but
Ed Siganowitz.
We were, again, we drove over the bridge that night to dock the boat and get it into the water over by the RV park. So when the bridge was out, my trailer and my truck were stranded,
Mhm.
on the island. When we went to go pick them up, the mayor had appointed like a liaison to us. So we called her up and told her, I need to get my truck off the island, my trailer. And there was literally a line from like where the sea ranch is, almost there, that's where the ferry was, or whatever, in that area, all the way clear to access, like beach access of cars, the tourist people who were trying to get off, people who worked at the island were trying to get off. And there wasn't nearly enough ferries to accommodate them quickly, and we were literally like being sent to the back of the line, and the mayor called me up and said, Robert, we're sending an escort for you. Wow. And I thought it was the best thing.
It was actually the first,
We
he was
were
the first vehicle on the ferry.
Yeah, and off the ferry.
Private vehicle, because I'm sure they tested it. It was actually in the newspaper. I have a clip out of that.
Get out of
Yeah,
here.
your truck's there and everything, and
Wow.
First ferry over.
First
They did a
ferry
story
over,
about
yeah.
it.
Wow.
And that's cool because
Front of the line.
the story doesn't mention us, which is great, but
Yeah.
it's cool to see that, here's a little bit of history. And my mom was awesome, man. My mom kept every newspaper clipping, original clippings
Wow.
of the time.
Mhm.
And even if you go back and read the clippings, it was wrong, man. It was wrong.
Yeah, the information was so.
Local papers, national papers, they had the story wrong.
That's crazy because, I mean, you would assume that these newspapers and all these articles, everything would get the truth.
Yeah, fact check, but I
Yeah.
guess fake news.
Fake news.
It was like that.
They're letting us know that we're having some audio issues. We're trying to fix that, but let's carry on the conversation because we also are recording this, so we'll be able to upload a little bit later.
Oh, cool.
But take us back to that night because I'm interested in what happened. Obviously, with a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
But it's just there's so many things that were interesting and peculiar about that night. Like when Bridget went back into the water to get her purse. That was such a bizarre.
Yeah. And if you give me some paper, I'll draw you the purse. That's how.
Do you remember? It was just like this little.
Yeah, tiny little bag.
Yeah, like a
Tiny,
little.
with it, and you know what? It had this really long string.
String, yeah. like a crossover.
Yeah,
or something.
crossover. Probably went down to her knees or something. I don't know.
And the purse or its content, I guess, was of super great importance because every time she would realize that she didn't have it, she would jump back into the water to go get it.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had to kind of like relive the pulling her back into the boat, but she was very adamant about getting her purse, and
Wow.
she did.
Yeah.
And she did.
You know, it was amazing. I think she was in a Chevy pickup truck, extended cab or full cab, whatever. Her entire engine was just taken out of the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
That's how hard her impact was, and she had no injuries.
No,
That's
wow.
amazing. That's pretty amazing.
That is crazy.
And I remember her saying that she was able to roll down her windows.
Yeah.
Because she had the old school. A lot of people don't know what this means, but this
Yeah.
roll down the window.
Yeah. Nowadays it's this.
Yeah.
And back then it was this. So yeah, and I think Tony mentioned. I don't have any recollection of it, but I think Tony said that her father had.
Yeah, her father had told her, if you're gonna buy a
everything.
truck, when you're gonna buy this truck, buy a big truck, so if you're in an accident, you have a better chance. And then you always wanna get manual windows, in case you ever gotta get out of your truck.
Hmm.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's pretty crazy.
Wow. Let me ask you this. JP said something that was very interesting to me. This, okay, 9/11, right, is New York's 9/11. This is equivalent to that for the island. Do you all agree? Like, it was that
Minus
such a
the terrorist attack, yes. I
But
think it was- it was
let's,
impactful.
if that hadn't happened, if 9/11 had not happened, I really feel that this would have been just a huge story, because it was a major bridge. I think it's like the second largest bridge in Texas, or maybe the
I don't know the facts to it, but I do know that it was a huge deal here, and it did make national news. I think I had my grandmother in Wisconsin back then, and my aunts in Bakersfield, California, and Shafter and stuff like that. We're calling my dad and saying, you know, we saw Robert and we saw this and that. So it made national news. It just didn't. It didn't matter. It didn't
Wow.
matter. The things that were going down here in South Texas had very little ripple effects throughout the nation in comparison to the Twin Towers collapse. So yeah, minus the terror, the terrorist attacks and you know, those cowardly acts. I think it was as I think the bridge itself. I think what he's trying to say is that the bridge itself is as monumental to us as the World Trade Center building is to the New Yorkers, you know. So it was catastrophic to us, and so yeah, I think it is our version of that.
Yeah. It's just such an in-depth thing that, because we keep hearing from different people, we keep hearing from other people, we keep hearing from people that haven't talked about this in so long. And it's like it brings up the past that they want to know about. Like they never knew about this stuff. Even when you tell me like some new things that come up, it's like, oh damn.
Yeah, like why didn't you tell me that? Yeah, no, it's like that. You know, that evening or that morning, it was scary, you know. It was something that I think people are getting a sense of now. Everybody had the information. Everybody had, you know, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted.
Yeah.
Boat hit the bridge hit the water, cars followed. We got it. I think now that people are hearing Roland and myself, Tony, and those that have participated, hearing the intensity of that night is bringing them to that night.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just giving them the details, it's giving you guys a feel of what happened. So I think that's why people are receiving it, and because it's not just information that they are attaining, it's information they're experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, just simplify it like this. We've all seen horrific accidents
Sure.
and we've passed by them. Very few have witnessed the accident, actually, the impact, the sound, the smells, all that. So that's what we're trying to give is those things. Because, I mean, what felt like a short time for us going back and forth. When Robert sent me my statement, I read it, and I was confused why some of the parts weren't mentioned, but, you know, I shared this with the Texas Ranger. But when I was reading the story, it just automatically started, you know, the sounds and then the stench of gasoline. Man, it was just
a layer of gas
yeah,
of
horrible
water.
stench. And then the noise of and then one of the things that I don't think we've even mentioned why some of the, because there's some witnesses from the fishing pier that said they had witnessed an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And what that explosion was the first impact of the car that it shed sparks everywhere.
You gotta remember, it was pitch black.
Yeah, pitch black.
It was pitch black, so any light and any flare and any little spark was profound. It was like a lot because there was, light was dead in that area, there wasn't. So when things sparked and when things would blow up or it really caught your peripheral from anywhere.
Wow.
You know, and then it blows off the surface of the water too.
Yeah.
So you have this really big glow, and so we would assume that, you know, explosions or this or that. We just recently heard JP talking about how even the chatter on the emergency lines was you know, crowded with confusion. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, we're being attacked. You know, what's going on? Is there an accident above?" But their main concern was that they thought they were being attacked. Well, so did we.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't so much like, oh, we just witnessed an accident, let's go help.
Right.
And I think that's what people are
Right.
failing to understand.
Right,
It was,
right.
we're being attacked, let's go help. You know, and there's a different feel for that. You know,
Yeah.
there's a different mode you have to get yourself into, because what could possibly take out the bridge? You know, in my mind, I was thinking RPGs, explosives.
All kinds of crazy.
And it was that abundant, the noise, the sounds, the screeching, the yelling. It was bad. So
I mean, and even at that point, even when we were doing it, we were even still hesitant to get near the guys, because we saw physically them at the head of the barge with lights.
running around lights, and they were trying
So,
to.
you know, we were all thinking, and he was piloting the boat, but you just felt it like we're not gonna get too close to those guys, because we don't know what the deal is.
For all we knew, they were carrying AKs, you know, and they were about to invade South Padre. I don't know, we don't know. But we were dealing with all of the uncertainties.
Wow.
And still going in blind.
That's crazy. We got another question on here. Let's see. Do we know the results of the toxicology report of the captain? It says, I know it was stated in previous episode. So no, we don't. I think we got a little bit of information. The only thing that I heard was that he didn't get enough sleep. Like there was no drinking. He didn't have anything in the system. That's what I heard from.
That's a Celeste question.
Yeah.
We're gonna give another shout out to Celeste and ask her if she can maybe help us find the toxicology report for the captain. I'm sure that it is present and documented somewhere. It's just something that you and I haven't gotten to.
Yeah, but you were also talking about the other guys on that had all the same amounts of.
Yes, all the same.
Talk about that.
So I remember that Frank would bring us into these conference rooms there at his office, and we would go over what was basically discussed or what was going to be discussed the day of the hearings. One of those nights after the hearings, we came back, and on the ride back, he was explaining to us how it was peculiar that everybody seemed to have the exact amount of alcohol in their blood system, to where it was all the same. So like, I'm a 260-pound guy, you know, and to be 3% above or 10% above the legal maritime law, you know, I would have had to consume X amount. Well, everybody had consumed the exact same amount from what I remember him saying, to give them exactly 3 point something above the maritime law toxicity level.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's something that we need to reach out to Celeste again, ask her to help us out and find that.
Absolutely.
I did not remember us giving a sample. I mentioned that a little while
Yeah,
ago.
no, I don't have any recollection of us either. I remember the ambulance guys coming up to us and kind of wanting to patch us up. You know, busted up. I had bruises and burns and stuff, but I don't remember.
I remember, you know, I don't know if you mentioned it, they peeled his shorts off his skin.
Wow.
Yeah, they had melted to his skin.
They had just, the flare, the dripping from the flare. I'm driving the boat, waving the flares, and the flare drippings would fall on the fabric of my shorts and melted my shorts into my skin. So they literally had to yank it right out, and it was horrible. It was a horrendous pain. So yeah, I don't remember them drawing blood.
Was a blood sample?
I think.
I guess we were in a bit of shock.
Yeah, because we saw some of the
Yeah.
toxicology reports, and they're detailed.
It has our name on it?
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't remember.
Well, you know, that's the beauty about it, though, because I'll be honest with you, there was no alcohol.
Yeah.
None.
You know, none with any kind of, you know, habits or anything. That's awesome that that's even out there. I mean, I guess we were in a bit of shock because I really do not remember
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember either.
That's crazy. We got another one from Mom Camargo. Did you all, or do you all still have post-traumatic stress? What do you deal with?
I'm gonna say yes, but you kind of deal with it better now. You know, I'm much more mature. Well, I'm trying to think I am.
Beg to differ.
You know, it's like I had mentioned earlier. I'm super glad that we did not share our story a year after this had happened, because we would have been just angry young men.
Yeah, there was too much remorse. There was too much residual emotions over everything. So yeah, I think I do. I think you know, I can't pump gas without. You got to remember, when Roland and Leroy would pop up back out of the water, they were drenched in gasoline.
Wow.
All right, so they're moving people around. Thank God, because I don't think it had occurred to us when we were using the flares. We were on our way to the site. We burned through a few of them by the time we got there.
Yeah.
Had we sparked one after they had jumped in to start pulling people out of the water and into the boat, we would have caught fire, man, because there was literally gasoline everywhere. High bridges still, yeah, you know, they make me a little uncomfortable. But talking about it and giving it away to people, you know, it's like carrying that bag of stones. You know?
Yeah.
You have all these things, and when you share it with people, you give them a little bit of lightness load. So it helps me.
Oh yeah, and the positive feedback that I mentioned, that was like such a big, like,
It's like medication.
Yeah,
almost,
it's just
right?
like this ton of bricks, because, you know, so many people say, wow, that's a pretty good story, it's pretty amazing, but then you hear complete strangers saying, you know, wow, it's amazing you were there, you know, God had a plan for you, and I truly believe God had a plan. There was just, it's 3 days after 9/11, you got 4 guys out there fishing in a ski boat, you know.
Yeah. We had no business there.
Yeah, I had no business out there. And then here's the funny part. Here's the weird part. Is that when we would go night fishing, like midnight was our cutoff.
Mhm.
You know, we would come back in at midnight, 1 o'clock, big deal, get home enough, because we all had to go do something the next morning.
Yeah.
But for something just kept us in that area. Something kept us there until the time that all this went down.
Wow. That's crazy, man. All right, we got another question here. Any information on the fishermen from Pirates Landing who jumped in to help that night?
I wasn't aware there were any.
I've kept this is the first time I share it with Robert. I know I might have done it. I used to be an insurance agent, and I was at this enrollment for insurance benefits at I won't mention it, but at a home health care, real popular one back then. And so I'm sitting there, and it was the anniversary. This happened to fall on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was mentioned in the newspaper. I had this woman across the desk from me bragging about how her grandson was the one that saved the people that fell off the bridge that night.
Wow.
And I couldn't correct her, you know. I heard her tell our story.
Wow.
And it was just like a disgusting feeling. Her and her brag about this, you know, and so I let her have her day, you know. All right, that's awesome, that's amazing, that's pretty cool. But I had mentioned this when we spoke on the phone. So many people try to make a buck off of it, and we were never approached with anything near that, and which I'm glad we weren't, because we're doing this. You know, you've been a huge help to get this out. This is free therapy, man. This is honestly what it is. Something that's been needed, because I mentioned it before. A lot of things negative that have happened in my life, things that I've done, things that I regret, a lot of it was to the PTSD. It's a simple way. Here's my excuse. No. I had a lot of anger.
It's a state of mind that you live in.
Yeah, it's something you carry on you. Some of us carry it better. There were some years. There was probably 1 or 2 years that I didn't even think about it once. You know, Didn't even bother me at once. When even when I met my now girlfriend, and I had shared this story because it's a good opener. It's a really good opener. It's funny because she goes, I went home and I Googled your ass. Now, back then, Google didn't exist when it started. Now, yeah. But it's funny because it checked out, and she loves to tell everybody, I Googled it. I Googled it right away. Let me see this guy. But it's awesome because anything that was left in me of anger or any kind of PTSD that I had left in me, it's kind of like really flowing on me. And maybe it's being an older guy now, and becoming manhood, and now that's not important. My kids' happiness, my family, that's more important now. So the PTSD isn't as bad, but there were some years and I'll be honest, I'm the first time that I'll let Robert know this, is that after my divorce, Robert saved my life.
Wow.
Because he took me under his wing, and he knew that I was getting out of control, and he took me with him. He said, "Hey man, let me come with me to Louisiana." He was working some jobs over there, and I spent a good 6 months probably back and forth with him, driving up in the mountains, stuff like that, and it was.
I just distracted him a little.
Distracted.
Well, hey man,
but it turned out to do
it,
wonders.
Yeah, it could have got really ugly, and it's. Yeah, we did still suffer for it, maybe just not so much now. I think the positive feedback helps because you kind of ignore maybe the sounds, the smells, and all that's not so bad, because now you got people saying, wow, that's an amazing story, that's pretty cool what you did.
See, back then when people would come up to us and say, oh man, you're a hero, you did this, it's a reflex to be humble and say, no, I didn't. And we all try to be as modest as we can. So I think that back then we really didn't know how to feel about it, and our culture doesn't teach us how to receive compliments and praise well enough.
Yeah.
I know that my parents are proud of me. I knew that they were proud of me even when I was doing stupid stuff. When I was a kid, they were proud of what they were doing. But it's not something that we're taught well how to praise and how to give our kids and show them love and that you guys are doing good. So since we don't teach that, we don't learn how to receive it well either.
Right.
So to get compliments and to get praise in such abundance back then, it made me uncomfortable. I didn't know how to deal with it because I was like, this is super new to me, like nobody ever, hey man, you did good, and when that does happen, we were like, well shit, like, how do I deal with that? Well, thank you,
Yeah.
And I think we didn't believe it. We just thought we were there, I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Roland told me, no, dude, there could be kids in those cars. No, we have to go. So we went, but I didn't want to go. So I for one, felt like telling dude, if you knew, had I been fishing alone, I might have gone the other way. I didn't have Roland there to tell me we have to help. So yeah, now that we're older, I think that raising my own children and trying to praise them and kind of do things that differently, if you will, I think that through that I've learned to kind of receive the compliments a little bit better, and when people say, you did a good job that night and you were a hero that night, instead of it taking me to a bashful place or a place that I don't want to be, it really fills me with joy, man, because I think that we did do a good thing that night.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember they had a parade for us?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were the Grand Marshals in the South by Drive Parade, and we rode in a convertible in the back, and it was just this.
I completely forgot about
It was this weird feeling because the entire Padre Island Boulevard was closed, and people were cheering and clapping, and it was, I mean, we were smiling and waving, but there was this weird, like, man, we don't deserve this.
Yeah, so you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that was weird, we were excited to be there, don't get me wrong, but when we were going through it, it was just a weird, like, hey, this is way too much.
You know how, like, in the movies, there'll be like a war hero, and like his shelf is like laced with all of these purple hearts and stuff, and they're like real trivial to them. They're just like, whatever.
Right.
Like, it's not. I think I understand that now, because it's not something that you brag about. It's not something that you boast about. It's just something that happened to you, and you were fortunate enough to come out of the situation favorably.
Yeah, I think y'all are absolutely right. I don't think this story would have had the magnitude it's having now if it was told any other time before this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's that hand of everything has to happen the way I need it to is ever present, even 20 years later.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'm super glad that this is something that we get to be a part of again as a healing process. You know, because
what do you think this year's anniversary is going to look like out there? If you had to.
I would like to attend, but not be any part of it whatsoever. Just so you can just kind of get the feeling of being there again with some of the family members and stuff. More importantly, having my children experience and see it. And Robert said it the other day, you know, if there's something that I could do, because we do day and night, go to sleep, what am I going to do better for the family?
Mm-hmm.
Wake up, what can I do better for the family? That's all you ever think about. But at the end of the day, what can they show, you know, newspaper clippings, you know, thank God the internet exists now, because, you know, Google me.
Yeah.
That's awesome, but I think for my children to experience and hear people tell their story, which is great, because when I played the podcast and they heard Spidey Hinojosa's story, and I haven't heard JP's yet, but from when my boys hear it, or my daughter hears it, it's well, she's 7, but just the fact that she knows that I'm a part of this, I think that's a great way to see it from the outside in, because I've always been from the inside out.
Yeah.
So now I get to have the people that I love
appreciate what you did something.
Not only appreciate it, but get their feedback, because no one's more honest with you than your family.
Right.
Yeah, really, there's no one.
You're right. We got another question here. Do you guys still talk to Bridget, and any plans of her speaking in any of these episodes? So we've tried to reach out we've tried to find her. I know I've requested her husband, but when they come is when they're gonna come, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've done very little to reach out. I, for one, have had no interaction or communication with any of the three survivors. Immediately after the court, when Frank took us into his conference room and told us about the gag orders, and, you know, slid us all our portions of what was ultimately paid out. Basically, he told us that we really shouldn't be, you know, bothering anybody or trying to cultivate any kind of long-term relationships with these people, that they had some healing to do, and so did we.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. You know, we were still very close, the 4 of us, and we had each other to kind of lean on, and so we did that. It's been, for me, at least 20 years since I've spoken to them, you know, to any of them.
Yeah, I think I ran into Gustavo like on the 5th year or the 3rd year we've been out there, because it was really something huge the few years after that, but then it just kind of died away. We weren't invited. Well, we probably were invited, but Frank, you know, would just say, you don't need to go to that.
You gotta remember, I only barely got on Facebook like 2 years ago, so even if they were looking for me, they weren't gonna find me. So yeah, no, I think it'll be a little bit easier.
I was Facebook friends with Renee, and the interesting thing is that this was, we probably haven't been friends for about maybe 8-9 years now, but when we were friends, we never even
talked about it.
We never talked about it. I don't even think I ever said happy birthday to him or back and forth, but we just kind of knew we were floating out there in cyberspace, you know, and you were there, I was there. But no, I've not spoken to any of them.
Roland, let me ask you this, now that you're here. The woman in the water, the white blouse,
Mm-hmm.
this is part of the story where Robert said it perfectly. It's like either people are like, that's bullshit, and they tune it off, or they're like, wow. What do you remember about that?
It's spot on. I mean, my statement, you got my statement? It's spot on. My statement where we mentioned this woman. No other body was found.
They extended the search for body recoveries for 2 days, solely based off of the statements that we get.
What do you remember seeing that night?
I remember her, I mean, even someone saying it, let's get her, but she's okay, because it looked like she was in shallow water, you know, and anyone who's been on the bay knows there's portions that you could get knee deep in some areas. So when we did see her, it was like, okay, and Robert's perfect. Yeah, she was like, just like, hey, you know, real calm, like, you know, wasn't no frantic or even, I don't even remember hearing a voice, but I do remember just this, you know, all right, we'll get to you, and then with the waves and the light and back, and we only had one spotlight, and it was a cheap spotlight Robert got, so. you can only see, Robert said it best, and I love it when you said, just, get a dark room, turn on the light, and try to find an ant. That's how it was that night. And then imagine tires, fenders, paper, trash, just
clothing. People had clothing in the back of their car.
This is the way it comes down to. We would never have found an ant if we didn't focus on that woman.
Wow.
Honestly. And even when we found an ant, we thought we were recovering a body.
Yeah.
And here's the amazing part. Here's the most amazing part that we haven't even mentioned. The ant was face down in the water. How did he not have drowned? You know what I mean? That's just amazing. Because when we grabbed him, when we put our arms underneath him to pull him up, it was dead weight, and that's just when he gasped for air. Like,
wow.
It was just, and his gash in his head, it wasn't torn flesh out. It was it popped in.
Wow.
So he when his head twisted over, just this massive bowl of water just like dripped out. So if it wasn't for seeing that woman and going her direction, he'd
have been lost in the darkness of the water.
Not lost in the darkness, but he would eventually drown because he was face down when we had gotten him. We thought we were recovering a body.
Wow.
And then the calmness on us, that was probably the first time I ever saw what he was like, but at the time we thought he was
such a badly hurt individual.
That is crazy. It's there's another part where you're talking about the slashes on the shirt.
Oh,
Talk about that.
Yeah, Gustavo got into the boat, and his shirt and his pants had what looked like perfect 2-inch slashes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, cut with a razor or a nice scissor, just completely down.
It was very weird. It looked like it was deliberately, proportionately shredded. Shirt, pants. Mind you, there's no blood on him from cuts or
Yeah.
At first you think, well, maybe the windshield glass or maybe, but no, it's as if someone or something.
Yeah, Tony said it looked like Freddy Krueger, like scratched him straight. And I want to say in one of the articles, man, I really wish I would have brought it, but I'll send it to you. He mentions that he felt like someone had pulled him from his car.
Wow.
So I mean, it's pretty crazy. But back to the woman, and I get it. I 100% get it. My father passed 2 years ago, and I never see him. Okay, I don't see him, but his presence is forever. It comes into me in the form of a honeybee, because he loved bees, because they would pollinate his place, citrus trees. His citrus, my dad was a huge citrus tree guy. A single bee in the weirdest places, man. The weirdest places all over the country.
Wow.
Will appear, and whenever I'm stressing, and there's sometimes I'll be in the truck, because that was the truck we were in all the time. I'll look over and I just feel his presence ever so deep, and this huge thing that happened on this trip. We were at the Bellagio to see the fountain show. It was a kid trip, so I had to watch all this stuff. We're at the Bellagio and the fountains are going off, and my daughter was watching it, and we were all laughing, having a good time. And I went over to see what was going on with her, and I kind of, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Because I didn't want her to fall over. And all the grandkids called my father Baya. She goes, I wish Baya was here. And she had this emotion in her, just this intense emotion, crying. And I got super choked up, and I started to cry and I told her, he is here, because that's how that you feel him. That's what you're feeling. Because I felt that. I have felt that in me. That makes me even a stronger believer that something happens in the afterlife. Something happens when we're gone. We are protected. And that night, Ned was protected from his mom. I guarantee. There's no other way about it. There's no explanation on why we were headed that way. And a massive amount of debris, and it's the bay, but I call it the ocean, because it's just like, you
might as well be.
Yeah, it might as well be, because you're in a little 17-foot boat. I mean, that's the equivalent of this. It's the equivalent of this ring on this desk. That's how mass of an area we had, and it's not luck. Yeah, that's not luck. Luck is us getting out of there with just the injuries that we had, and we survived at that. The other portion didn't fall on us when we were down there.
Because we were right below it. Like there was pieces of rubble and pieces of road and concrete still dripping on us while this was going on.
We get another question here. So it says, you talked about taking divers on your boats to look for survivors. Was that after you encountered the Coast Guard? Or
Yes. because the Coast Guard got there with, again, with their like really smug and nonchalant attitude, you know, I mean, it was their version of demonstrating helplessness. They knew they couldn't do anything, so they were just probably as frustrated as we were. But the problem was that these boats were too large to get near the open. And the frogmen, the scuba divers, were from, I believe, the firehouse. The local fire chief was one of the people who had just gone into the water in the accident. They were eager to go get their chief. So they saw us arguing with some of these other boats that had been commandeered by troopers and Homeland Security and stuff like that, and saw that we were kind of ignoring them, you know, just going around them and getting to places and stuff. And one of them asked us, "Will you take us there?"
Yeah, I remember that clearly. Oh yeah.
He was like, "Will you get us there?"
With the frustration, man.
Oh
like,
man, he was just livid that he wanted to be in the water, and they wouldn't get him there. And he just threw his tanks and stuff and jumped on my boat, and we took him. It was after, to answer the question.
We got another one here. Did you ever talk to? Did you ever hear from Chris again, the Coast Guard?
No, but that'd be a cool cat to find.
God, yeah.
Because, you know, we're 20. Well, by the way, I was the oldest man in the boat.
Oh, you were your
I
oldest
had
son?
seniority, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, my bad. I didn't know.
No, but he's a kid, man. But you know, he's in the Coast Guard. That's fine. He's trained to this. But the balls on this kid, man.
They went against his
yeah,
and
flat
stuff.
out. Hey, I'm coming with you
pulling with
guys.
them,
Jumped
man.
right off his rig into ours, and was, you know.
Yeah, telling us what to do, getting everybody comfortable and situated.
That'd be a cool cat to find, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. It's got to be out there.
Chris,
because
get out there. If anybody knows,
I mean,
Chris, send them our way.
it's in my statement. I said Chris. I don't know. I said Chris. I don't know his last name.
Yeah.
I knew his name was Chris.
Yeah.
Young, and I want to say he was from Port Isabel. He's not like some guy stationed somewhere else near somewhere else that came down to be stationed here. Yeah, I think he was originally from Port Isabel.
He brought structure to the boat, man.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but chaos, blood, and just people frantic on the boat, including ourselves. And he snapped everybody in check. Like, hey guys, we got to get this and this done.
You know, that's the amazing part, that even us sharing the story now, no one seems to have any other questions about why the Coast Guard didn't do what they should have done. You know what I mean?
Or what is the protocol for that? Like, did they have
Well,
one?
this is what I'm thinking. Those waters are probably just state and local water, state and county waters. So here's this federal entity that you think would I mean,
Intervene.
this is what I was expecting, man. I was expecting them to roll up in wetsuits and be in the water, rolling up in those little boats, those
little rubber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. So seeing them was just a huge relief, man. Like, we're done with this. Like, we've done what we have to do. You know, being told, the first thing coming out that I remember being told, hey, any of you guys have a cigarette lighter?
I got a lighter. You guys got a lighter? I need a cigarette.
That's crazy.
I'm looking at him. I'm like, somebody get this son of a bitch a lighter, man, because he don't even care about the people who are hurt in the boat.
Jeez.
Like
Yeah.
if there were just fish that we had just recently caught, just complete disregard.
Wow. People are letting us know that we're having some lagging issues, so we are gonna re-upload this later with high quality everything. So I'm assuming it's just technology. Well.
It works when it works.
Yeah, it works when it works. But let's go back to that night, because there was some other interesting things that we heard after that, like from the divers. I think you were telling me that when they would go in, talk about that.
Days after the accident happened, they were still trying to recover not only bodies, but the vehicles themselves and the rubble and everything. They had to get out of the way, because at this point, remember that the island is still hemorrhaging money. You know, they're losing it day by day. So the main priority was to recover what they could recover, move what they needed to move, and rebuild. So they started sending salvage experts down there to tie up the cars and to bring everything to the surface. So speaking to, not directly to one of them, but to a partner. So these are scuba guys who would go underwater, and they're tying everything up, and when they would decide to pull the cord to start bringing themselves up to the surface, they would get the sensation of hands or somebody grabbing them, pulling them, dragging them back down, like as if somebody was trying to, catch a ride to the surface with them on their shoulders.
Wow.
and that they would come up, you know, and in panic and frantic, you know, like something grabbed me, or somebody grabbed me, or somebody who's down there, who else was down there with me. And so they were, you know, tossing stories about that back and forth, and it's oddly enough, you both sent me a video that was uploaded, I think the night before we recorded our first podcast about this, and then somebody on a pier,
Yeah.
and there's a lady screaming in the background, you know, so I don't believe that there are, I guess you can't believe that there are good entities out there, you know, saving their sons and doing good things without believing that there could be some bad things
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. But the truth of the matter is that after the accident, after the bridge was already reconstructed, we would go out there and fish under it, and kind of go under the spot and say, yeah, man, and revisit it. You never had any.
Yeah, I never had any
incidents or scary moments that would compare to the night of.
Let me ask you this, why did it take the better part of 3 days for them to pull out those vehicles?
Well, you gotta remember that the island's not set up for barges to be working on it. When a bridge, I've kind of checked on this. When a simple pier is built on a home, small little pier, the companies have to come up from up north with these barges and stuff to pile in the pilings on it. So it took that many days to get the equipment on a crane on the equipment to pull the cars up. One of the first mediations we went to, they were just showing photos of the cars being pulled out, and it was awful to see that. I mean, these cars got,
They're mangled.
yeah, and you would think you know, hitting water, pretty hard surface, but the amount of, I mean, Bridget's entire engine completely
Was
out of her
ejected from
car,
the
and she
gun.
has no injuries. I mean, that's just
Wow.
amazing. But yeah, that's what I'm assuming it took so long, because even the ferries took quite some time. I think they got them from Port Aransas or Port Arthur, some
By
area.
the time the ferries got there and the construction crews assembled, the days had gone by. They hadn't even recovered the bodies. So in the court, when they were showing bodies that were recovered, most of the bodies there was just no pigment.
And white, just white.
And they were all missing their lips and their eyelids, their eyeballs, their ears, because of the fish and the crab down there were eating at those bodies. So a lot of people don't understand that we had to sit through these mediations where these pictures came out, you know, and so talk about continued trauma, you know, and prolonged.
After the fact.
Yeah, after the fact. You know. We walked into that courthouse not thinking anything, you know, not expecting to see anything like that, and they would, you know, wheel out these big, you know, TVs and stuff, and it was just a slideshow of the wreckage, of the trauma to the bridge, of the ferries, and everybody was in line, Southwestern Bell.
Yeah, that's interesting about that, because Celeste showed me the papers that like everybody had their hand in it.
Oh, yeah, the
Every
hotels,
hotels, mom and pop places from the island, Port Isabel the same. Just about every single entity and person who lost a job because they couldn't get to and from their jobs that was on the island, everybody was suing this company. So
Are you surprised that there were that many lawyers involved in this?
You know, I was really surprised how many lawyers were defending the barge company and the barges, because they were this is straight out of a movie, man.
Yeah.
Sharp, $5,000 suit guys, you know.
and in herds, like
Oh, yeah,
8,
yeah.
9, 10 of them at a time would walk in, and these are all very
Cold guys, man, real cold. I met some cold people in my life, but these guys were cold, super
Wow.
cold to I mean, what was the reason for showing us that slideshow? You know, that was ridiculous, you know. If anything, it just damages you guys more. Look at the shit you guys caused.
Yeah.
But these guys were cold, and I mentioned it. The guy put his boots on a federal desk, man. That's unheard of. And then, and I remember back to the private jet. I didn't get to finish the rest of my comment when I said that. The reason I knew they had flown down in a private jet, these, you know, at first about maybe 8 to 10 lawyers, and they grew, is he said, remember, we were young guys, okay? We walked in with our attorney. We're kind of, you know, a little dressed up with her. So I guarantee you, they thought that we were assistants, you know, because we even carry some of Frank's shit sometimes.
Briefcases
Anyways,
and stuff.
so I heard him, you know, from here to that wall, him clearly say, they're gonna take the offer. Feel legit. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out. Call the pilot.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Not to rent the room. They're not gonna take the
Exactly,
offer.
yeah. And I guess that's, you know, that's the job they are, to be cold, that's what they gotta do, but, you know, you gotta have some compassion for these people.
It just left an animosity on our side towards them.
Yeah, because this was the whole thing. Leaving it, and I mean, we're in our 20s, but we're, you know, kids in mind, we're new to this thing, and telling Frank, hey man, Frank, these guys cold motherfuckers, and he's like, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
That's the